What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Bronx Pinstripe Show. As it seems to be every single time we're not recording in our normal situations, there's tech problems. But it's the 4th of July. Scott, what's up?
Happy birthday to the late great George Steinbrenner and John Sterling, the two American heroes, two Yankee heroes. Obviously had to be born on the 4th of July, also the birthday of America. It just makes sense. So happy 4th of July. Hope everybody is having a great day with friends, family, and being safe. No Yankee baseball. It's a very much a strange situation with no Yankees baseball today, to be honest.
It is, yeah. The schedule makers, as we've discussed a number of times this year, seem to do some weird things this time around. I know the lockout affected things, but they weren't going to be playing on 4th of July regardless of a lockout, so no excuses there.
Yeah, it feels un-American to not have the Yankees play on the 4th of July, to be very honest. It feels un-American. This is one of those things that needs to happen every single year. Every single year the Yankees should be playing on the 4th of July.
Well, what do you have planned for the 4th of July? You're just driving home, right? So
Exactly.
I guess you were going to be watching in the car as you were driving.
No, I don't do that. I would never do that. I've had an extended weekend in Bethany Beach, Delaware, with my mother and my sister and the kids and all that. So we've had a lot of fun, a lot of good cousin time. But no, yeah, usually, when the 4th is, if it's on a Monday or any holiday that's on a Monday, I'm usually traveling somewhere back to where I live. But that's okay. Fireworks tonight, that's happening still, right? Fireworks are still going to be going off, and I would listen to John Sterling, which I know he's not currently in the booth, but that's what I would like to do on the 4th of July, is listen to John Sterling call the Yankee game.
I don't know if, so you mentioned fireworks. I don't know if this was like a fever dream I had last night, but people around here, because I'm at the beach as well, were setting off fireworks like around 9 o'clock last night once the sun was fully down. And then about like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, I just heard like 3 loud firework bangs. It sounded like from next door. And I mean, I was asleep at that point. I didn't even bother looking out the window. I was just hoping and praying that the thing didn't wake up Harrison and we have a crying baby on our hands. But I have to ask Leanne if that was actually a real thing that happened, or if I just maybe had one too many beers yesterday and dreamt that.
No, that's what happens every single, the 4th of July weekend. You get the stragglers who you forget about a couple fireworks that were in the box that you didn't set off, and you get hammered, and then you go out and obviously set fireworks off while hammered on the beach. Obviously. It makes a lot of sense.
Obviously. Yeah. It's now illegal in Rhode Island. Didn't stop anybody. Did not stop. No. If anything, they were like challenge accepted.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, when they make it illegal, do you think that like the cops want to go around and shut them all down? No, they don't. No. They don't want to do that. No. They're very much just look the other way.
Well, I guess we have to talk about the Yankees, right? And they finished June 22-6, the dreaded tough June that we alluded to all month. 22-6 in that month. I guess that's pretty good.
It's crazy because when you think back in the month of June, because the season has gone so well, I do feel like the record was worse than that. But it's not. They just every time they go into a series, they end up with a win in the series, it seems like, and they just keep marching along. But no, the month, the dreaded month that they actually came to and stood up to the test. I'm very proud of the guys, and they worked around some issues too. They definitely worked around some starting pitching issues, and still came out with a 22-6 record. That's ridiculous.
I think you're right. It didn't feel like a 22-6 month is a dominant month, no matter what, and it didn't feel like a dominant month. I think for a couple of reasons. You alluded to the starting pitching struggle a lot more. We dissected that on the last episode, where the Yankees ERA, pretty much since the Twins series as a staff, was in the 4s, right? So it didn't feel the same on the starting pitching front. But they also had a lot of offensive troubles, not just being no hit by the Astros for a game and a half, but just the offense overall was not as consistent in the month of June as it was in the first 2 months of the year. But they still went 22-6. So what's the takeaway there? That this team just anyway is going to figure it out? I mean, I think Boone alluded to that in his I think I read a quote of his after Game 1 of the doubleheader on Saturday against Cleveland, where he just talked about how this team is so resilient. Another good stat that I saw is that they're 6-1 in their last 7 games following a loss, and that they have the fewest consecutive losses in the league. They've only lost back-to-back games 4 times all year, which is the fewest in baseball. So it's that resiliency that Boone talked about after that Game 1 of the doubleheader, after losing a tough game in Houston and then a rainout, that even though I think from our eye test probably is why you said, yeah, it didn't feel like a 22-6 month, but they just keep winning.
Well, I think also because of the Houston series and then the Houston loss on Thursday as well. What have you done for me lately? And some of those games, because they were so there was more tension in those games than any game this season probably, and so it feels different when you're thinking back on it. But when you talk about the resiliency of the team and the reason how they can overcome like this, and the fact that they don't go in these long losing streaks, it goes back to 2 things. Balance in the lineup, and I know that they've had some offensive struggles, but not very many. A few here and there, but balance in the lineup, I think, has been one reason. And then obviously the starting pitching and the relievers. The pitching staff has been ridiculous, but I do think that because of this balance now, you're seeing what's possible. When you get guys going right, this is going to be I think in October, this is going to be a very tough lineup, and who knows what they add at the deadline as well. But this is going to be a very tough lineup to go through, even for top flight starting pitchers. And I know, when we face them, obviously the results aren't as good as you would think, as you should expect. But this is going to be a tough out. This team is definitely built to go deep. They really are.
Yeah, because the Houston starting pitching in 5 games that they've played them has absolutely shut them down. The Yankees have only scored 5 runs in 33 innings against Houston starters this year. But they won 2 of the games that they played so far, and they were basically in every game aside from the no-hitter. Even that was a close game. Had you gotten a walk or something late, then you maybe get like the tying run to the plate and stuff like that. But every game has been close. The offense seems to have a chance. You never feel like they're just give up in the last 3 innings. I feel like has been a narrative the last couple of years, is that if they're down in the 7th, it's like, this team isn't coming back. I don't feel that way anymore. But the numbers overall this month were not great, aside from you'd see these outbursts in even short outbursts in like single innings where they'd score in bunches and then they'd go quiet again.
Right, but the thing that gets me when I look back at the Houston series specifically, and I'm including the 4-game set that happened week before last as well. But when you look at the games that they lost, 3-1, 3-0, and then on Thursday 2-1. These are low scoring games. These are games, like you said, they're involved in. They very much have the ability to come back. And even if they haven't gotten the starting pitchers, they haven't gotten to those guys yet. This reminds me of old Yankees teams where they wear you down, work the count, get the pitcher into a situation where pitch count becomes part of the game narrative, and now you got to go to your bullpen maybe a little early, and they just wear you down and wait you out until you get to the opportunity where they could strike, because this offense has the ability to put up a lot of runs in bunches through the home run ball, but also because they can spray around the field. So that's what gives me so much confidence, because of their team pitching overall. Their bullpen is, as is Houston. I mean, Houston has a great bullpen as well. But the Yankees offense, I think, is just a little bit more balanced, a little bit more prolific, and has the ability to strike late, and the pitching keeps you in the game. And to me, like that, those are 2 massive attributes of a team that I'm looking for when I think about how you can make a deep run. If you could stay in a game and if you could strike late and keep, a lot of run prevention, which is something that they prioritize in the offseason, and it has worked out very well for them. It's good. It's a good makeup.
The ironic thing is, going back to the 4-game series with Houston at Yankee Stadium, Houston came into that series with the best bullpen ERA in the league.
Right.
And the Yankees scored off of the bullpen. They didn't score off of the starters. They got to the bullpen twice, and that was sort of the ironic thing about it. Like, yeah, the Houston starters. Verlander's obviously the household name there, and he's having a renaissance season. but they had been also struggling. Quiddy. I can never pronounce his name. He had come into that start against the Yankees like having terrible numbers the whole month, and he took a no-hitter deep into the game against them. So you're not concerned at all with the performance against some of these starting pitchers from the offense?
I wouldn't call it concern. No, I think that, because I mean, you could look at yesterday's start as well against Cleveland. Tristan McKenzie came in and had a pretty terrible set before he got to this game, and then shut them down.
He's another one.
So you could look at these. Yeah. So I again, I'm not concerned. No, I mean, yeah, we're looking at these and hopefully they can improve, but it's not a concern by any means. Again, 22-6, it's tough to get concerned about those, especially right now. If this starts happening though, but if this happens in August, in September, if they're not able to get this offense clicking, I think at that point against some of these pitchers, then yeah, there's a little bit more of a concern level, but I don't think so. I think that this team is just prepping, getting ready.
They're prepping for October.
That's it. Right now.
July.
Right now. Yeah. They're prepping for October. Right now.
Got it. So the part of the plan was one hit off of Tristan McKenzie, who weighs -3 pounds.
He weighs, yeah. But you know what's funny about him is that they were talking about this in the broadcast. He's on my fantasy team, so I've been paying close attention to his stats all season as well. But he gives up the home run ball, doesn't put a lot of guys on base. But he's got some blow up starts. But when he's on, he's got nasty stuff. You saw some of it.
Yes,
he was definitely around the strike zone, and making guys miss. They were not comfortable there against him.
What is he? Is he listed at like 6'4", 6'5", and like 160 pounds?
I don't know what his.
This is an unhealthy
he's just
gentleman pitching.
That's not true, because if you saw him in like a different, if you saw him in like street clothes, you'd be like, all right. If you saw him in a basketball uniform, you'd be like, okay. He's a finely tuned athlete, is what he is.
160 pounds for 6'4".
He's not 160 pounds. You just made that up.
No, I think that's what they said on the broadcast.
There's no way.
It's like 160 pounds.
Okay, can we look this up, please?
Logan, can you look that up?
Yeah, I have it. He's 6'5" and 165 pounds is listed on Baseball Reference.
Oh my God, 165 pounds.
And Baseball Reference is, those numbers are probably inflated by at least 5 or 10 pounds.
Okay,
he's skin and bones.
That's a bit much. 165 at 6'5". That's crazy.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's unhealthy.
Man, I mean, it's clearly working.
He's lanky. He's got
leverage.
He's got that
leverage.
Whip action.
Yeah.
I don't know. One of the it's always a tough spot, right? You sweep the doubleheader, and then you're in technically a getaway day on a Sunday on a holiday weekend. I guess that's a tough spot, but they just looked like absolutely dead tired on Sunday. Like nothing from the offense. And Montgomery was good. Against the Guardians. There was something interesting we were talking about with Logan beforehand. As Logan was, I'm not going to blow you up, but you're kind of mocking Susan and what she was talking about on the broadcast, and how she likes to repeat herself about how Montgomery was searching for his stuff on the mound. And I feel like that's a common thread with Monty in a lot of starts is he always seems to be searching, but I don't even say he always finds it, but he's never he doesn't have many blow up starts where it's just he's completely lost with nothing on the mound. So if he goes into a start looking, okay, what's going to be working today? Is my slider going to be working? Is my curveball going to be working? Am I going to throw fastballs up in the zone? I guess that's just his approach, and he sort of wings it, and it's working.
I mean, even his last start before this one, he had a terrible start, beginning of the start. And then settled in. So he had the blow up. It happened, but then
it was
but
the
then
one
they
inning,
stayed
though. It
with
was only
him.
one inning. That's it.
Right.
He gave up all the runs in one inning against Oakland. Stayed
with them, because understanding that Monty will find it and figure it out, and if he can hold the team, even if they score how many was it, 6 runs, something like that, the Yankees can fight back into the game. So. Yeah, he does. He searches things. Logan was talking about this right beforehand. He even talks about that. When he's going out to the mound, or when he's going out to his bullpen session before he starts on the mound, He's looking. What feels good today? What's the go-to today? What feels good out of my hand? What doesn't feel good out of my hand? And then as he's one of these guys that has a bunch of different pitches, who can manipulate the ball in different ways, and can make adjustments. And that's why I think that you see him able to go deeper into games, because even in game he's able to make these adjustments and make them based off of not only what he's feeling today, but what he's seeing in the batters and the lineups. And obviously the coaching staff is walking him through that too, but he's got the ability to make those adjustments and then execute them.
Right. Yeah, the pitching was great in the Guardians series. Both Cole and Cortes in the doubleheader were really good. Cortes needed a bounce-back start, and he got it. He retired 13 batters in a row at one point. And Cole gave up a couple home runs, but otherwise he was good. I was looking up Cole numbers. So he's allowed 1.4 homers per 9 this season. And it's slightly up from last year at 1.2. And I don't know if that's – they were both solo home runs. That's the cliche, right? Solo home runs don't kill you. But he does give up a lot of bombs. Maybe the Minnesota start skewed things, because he gave up 5 home runs in the Twins start.
I think it did. I mean, he's always given up home runs. Even when he was with Houston, he was among the league leaders in home runs given up. So that's what he does. He's around the plate and he will give up the long ball. The point is that he is more aggressive. I think when the bases are clear and he gives up a home run with nobody on, then so be it. I think he chalks that up as not a problem. Not a problem at all. It's part of his MO.
It's the equivalent on the offensive side. The equivalent is Matt Carpenter, who has 12 hits this year and 8 of them are home runs. It's freaking ridiculous.
I love watching him play. He's such a throwback. Him and LeMahieu on the same team is just is very amusing to me. The fact that he walks up there with no batting gloves, rubs his dirt on his hands, and then he's got that long, powerful it's a long swing, but he whips it around quickly, but it looks longer than most. And he's got a different crack of the bat when he makes good contact off that barrel. He smokes that ball. So
he hits
he's
rainmakers.
fun, man.
The things go a million feet in the air. They're just like high fly balls, not like Stanton line drives. Yeah, I was talking about this with my dad this weekend. Again, Carpenter is a fun. It's a fun narrative so far.
It's not a narrative. It's an execution.
But realistically,
yeah, you're waiting for something to happen.
How much value does he have on this team?
A lot, because
when and if this team needs some depth, right? Like, I know he played an inning in the outfield this weekend, but when and if this team needs outfield depth, how do you keep Carpenter on the roster?
You get rid of Joey Gallo in some way or fashion, and it's happening. Look, I'm convinced it's happening now. The fact that we saw Carpenter go out and play an inning in the field, it's just like, can he? Can't he? Oh, he can. Oh, yeah. Bye, Joey. Bye. How many hits does he have in the past 77 at-bats? I saw 3, something stupid. I'm like, there is no point in this man anymore. There is no point in this man. If Carpenter can go and play the outfield with a glove or without a glove, it doesn't matter. He can probably catch the ball with his bare hands. And he goes out there. It completely erases any value that Joey Gallo has. Because who can hit home runs better than Joey Gallo? Matt Carpenter can. Who can play the outfield like a human being with a glove? Matt Carpenter can. I don't need you anymore, Joey Gallo. You provide zero value to this team. No value. You're a strikeout. You are an out every single time. Please, please, please get out of my face. I cannot. This is the worst brand of baseball. It's the worst brand. I'm sure he's a nice guy. It's the worst brand of baseball, and he does nothing to help this team.
What do you need to say that caveat for? I'm sure he's a nice guy. Yeah. Great.
Because I'm just talking about his baseball. Guy. Yeah, I'm just talking about his baseball. I got nothing against him personally. I just don't want him on my team.
Right. No, no one wants him on this team. I don't think you find one person that's still defending Joey Gallo.
I'm sure there's a bandwagon account for Gallo somewhere on Twitter floating around.
I don't pay attention to most of Twitter at this point. All right, let's talk about Aroldis Chapman. Oh boy. If you, in your wildest imagination, could draw up a worst case scenario for a return, giving up back-to-back-to-back home runs would have been less bad than walking back-to-back-to-back guys in your return from the IL. if you're Aroldis Chapman.
So it could have been a closer game. Could have been It could have been something that affected.
Could have been the ninth inning, right?
Could have been the ninth inning.
Yeah.
Could have been the ninth inning. Could have been a number of things that would have. The situation could have made it worse. I'll just go that way. The situation could have made it worse. So I don't know. He's working back. We'll see. I'm chalking this up for rust. Okay, rust. Just rust. He doesn't. He throws strikes. It's fine. No, he doesn't throw strikes, and that's the biggest problem. So he comes back, and this is the big problem. We'll see. Judgment's out until he gets a couple more, but you can't possibly put him in a situation that matters right now. You can't. No. He's got to now prove that he can do it in a blow up situation, which now is like it's affecting your roster.
So we've talked about this for a couple of weeks, how Boone said when Chapman comes back, he will go back to pitching the ninth inning. He didn't necessarily say he's going to go back to being the closer, but he just said he's going to go back to pitching the ninth inning. I am proud of Boone for not pitching him in his first time back in the ninth inning and trying to get him into a low leverage spot in a blowout game in a was it the sixth inning or seventh inning that he came in?
I think it was the sixth.
Sixth. I'm proud of Boone for that. But it was an absolute disaster. He looked uncomfortable. Okay, first of all, he looks more jacked than ever, doesn't he? Like, he looks, like, thick. Like, I'm not calling him fat, not calling him out of shape. He just looks like very wide, very thick. Now, I don't know if that's affecting him at all, but he just didn't look comfortable out there. And, I know he gave a little grimace after the last walk. I don't think anything came of that after the game. I read an article on NJ.com. Boone was quoted as saying he's healthy. He just needs to get his psyche right. He needs to get his confidence back. Stella needs to get his groove back, basically was the takeaway of the article. But I have absolutely no freaking confidence in the guy that he's going to be able to do it. And that's exactly why. You cannot trust someone in any sort of medium to high leverage spot. I don't give a crap if it's the fifth inning, sixth inning, ninth inning, who cannot throw strikes. And he cannot throw strikes consistently anymore.
If we don't see Aroldis Chapman get back to form in the sense that he's effective and throwing the ball over the plate, you said it, like that's what he has to do. He's got to throw the ball over the plate. But again, remember that he's got no future with this team. There's no reason to stay with a guy that has no future. One, and if he's proving that he can't do this, again, this is one outing. I'm not making a massive deal of this because at a couple points he did find some success, and I know that some of it was lucky when you look at the advanced analytics and read between the lines and what he is. But he can be a weapon. So they need to figure out if he can be a weapon throughout the season, and if he can't, they're going to cut bait at some point. Whether it's in September.
Oh, you think so?
Or they absolutely could. If he's taking up a roster spot and he's not effective and he can't throw strikes, at some point they have to say, we need effective people in here. And they have enough effective people to warrant booting a guy that doesn't throw strikes. There's no reason for them to hold on to him if you come late in the season and he's not effective and he can't throw the ball. You need pitchers who can help you win a championship. And if that's not the guy, there's no reason to hold on to him.
Right? Like
it doesn't matter. They've already the majority of the year.
No, I know. I know. But like he makes 17 or 18 this year, right? So you're talking about half of that. What's up, Logan?
Okay, I have a question. If the Red Sox called on the trade deadline and said we'll take the rest of Chapman's contract for like a player to be named later, do you do it?
No.
No, not a chance in hell. Because there's a possibility that he could come out and just like revenge spitefully come out there. There are people in this world, possibly one on this podcast, that are very, very motivated by spite. I could see Aroldis Chapman being one of those people, and with the physical tools that he has, no. I am not trying to put myself in a situation where all of a sudden we're facing down the barrel of Aroldis Chapman, who is throwing strikes at 103 miles an hour and shoving against the Yankees in the playoffs, wearing a Boston Red Sox uniform. That cannot happen. No. You ship him anywhere else. But I understand that if you cut, and I'm not talking about cutting him like right now, which you're alluding to half of the contract. I'm saying at some point when roster decisions are needed to be made, and they need to make sure that people are on this team that will help them down the stretch and into the playoffs. If he's not one of those guys, it wouldn't be the most surprising thing in the world to me.
Scott, do you remember the Seinfeld episode where Jerry is returning like a shirt or a blazer And then the person working at the clothing store says, "Why are you returning it?" And Jerry says, "For spite." It's probably the thing I relate to most in the world.
Yes.
Is that answer.
Correct.
So no, you absolutely do not trade Aroldis Chapman really to any team that you could face in the playoffs. And I know that's stupid, because I always hate in football when a team is won't trade their player to an in-division opponent or something like that because they're afraid of him biting in the ass. But it's like, this is a completely different scenario, because like you said, Logan, you'd be basically just giving him up for someone taking on salary. So that in my opinion is not worth it, because if Chapman gets one out against you in an October situation pitching for the Red Sox or the Astros or something, you cannot live that down. Can't live that down. So no, I would not do that. But no. I also don't know how I don't know how you pitch Chapman with any confidence. So it was a pretty disastrous return from the IL. Last thing I want to talk about from the last 4 games. You think any crazy shenanigans were going on with Houston in the PitchCom? What were they doing? What were they feeding into Sevy's PitchCom?
I don't know, but it didn't work. That's what I see. I see a bunch of people calling the Tucker play Bush League, and I don't see it as that. I see it as a guy who's adjusting something, whether it's PitchCom or it's whatever he could be adjusting, and maybe not paying attention enough to a point where he's not going to execute a throw. And clearly he wasn't in that position. He wasn't there with his pants down. He had enough, he had enough wherewithal in that moment to be able to throw a ball and cut down the runner. But that would have been very bad if it worked. Very bad if it worked. So do I think that they were throwing some disturbance his way? It's possible. Nothing's out of the question, especially when you have these electronics. Look, I said that from the beginning. I'm like, this is just begging for someone to cheat, somehow throw some different frequency in there. AI can probably mimic the exact voice that they were using, and so if the other team can then tap into that voice and use their own AI to then give the pitcher different calls, I mean, that would be a disaster. Imagine that. You're hearing the thing, you think it's coming from your catcher, but actually it's coming from the intern in the Houston clubhouse. That could be a disaster.
The Yankees use just a regular robotic Siri type voice. I know some teams have had other more custom voices. I don't know if the Yankees have changed that throughout the season. It's just funny that the first problem with PitchCom happened in Houston, and it was very loud in there. So I don't know, credit to those fans who were super loud, or maybe credit to the PA guy who pressed the crowd volume noise all the way, cranked it up to 10. I don't know exactly. Anytime you got a dome situation, I seriously question the crowd noise when it is deafening like it was on Thursday. So
I mean, you understand the acoustic piece of that, right? The dome will account for more noise if the same crowd were as loud as they are in Yankee Stadium or in a dome. I gotta believe the dome's going to be louder because of the sound has nowhere to go.
Sure, no, I get it, but there's just been too many stories over the years in other sports as well where there's just pumped in fake crowd noise. Especially in football, the Colts were notorious for pumping in fake crowd noise when the other team was trying to get their signals in.
It feels like an easy lever.
That's what, and now these teams with the COVID season, they had to pump in crowd noise. So it's that's the leftover file from 2020. Sorry, forgot.
Yeah, whoops. I had my mic was not muted, and I thought it was when I was playing the sound of a lawnmower on my phone.
Couple more things before we get to, I want to compare projected versus actual WARs so far for some key players this year. But I was looking on Baseball Reference this morning, and the Yankees have a 24.9% chance to win the World Series, so essentially 25%. That's ahead of the Dodgers at 20.3% and the Astros at 15%. No other team other than those three are above 7%. You agree with those? I mean, those seem to be clearly the three front runners right now.
Yeah, I think the last time we checked this, the Dodgers were the odds-on favorite at that point. Yeah,
they were ahead of the Yankees. Yeah.
So that has been
maybe
flipped.
A month ago.
Yeah, and we went. So the Yankees went through their hard June, ended up 22-6, and here you go.
Yeah. And then I had a brief scare on Friday during the rain delay when I saw Brian Hoke tweet that Anthony Rizzo and Aaron Judge did a slip and slide on the tarp in Cleveland. And he had a video of it. I was legitimately like, half of me was like, oh, these guys are having fun. I love that. Little kids again, that sort of like camaraderie thing. Then I was like, oh no, someone's going to get hurt. And then obviously it was like clubhouse attendants wearing the jerseys or something like that. But that was a scary moment for a brief second.
The first thing I thought of was like, man, Judge really is getting cocky. He really is getting cocky with this whole like I'm betting on myself thing, and the dude's going out there doing slip and slides. Like this has the ending of one of those just terrible Aaron Boone style stories where you're out, playing pickup basketball or sand football, whatever it is, sliding on a tarp during a Cleveland rain out. No, but it's fun. They were clearly in on it. I feel like they were definitely in on it, giving them the like, you guys go out there, let's troll everybody. I appreciate the trolling, I do, because I think that the Yankees have done this a couple different times throughout this year. This time they were trolling the fans, which I appreciate. Let's just it's funny. They're trolling us, and I like that. They know that we will overreact. They were probably all looking at Twitter like, let's watch what happens.
Well, Brian Hoke, I don't know who else tweeted it, but maybe was Brian Hoke in on it, because he let the first video linger for a little while before he clarified that it wasn't actually them.
Yeah,
maybe
that's fine.
He was duped too. I don't know.
It was a little blurry too, so there were a lot of good things. It was like a sighting of Bigfoot. You couldn't really tell who it was, but you saw enough to make out the numbers, and you could tell who the guys. The first thing I noticed as they were approaching the tarp and they got a little closer was like, these guys don't look as big as they're supposed to look.
Yeah.
That's what
well, also the jersey was like way too baggy. You look like Tristan McKenzie in the jersey.
Yeah. Tristan McKenzie wearing CeCe's jersey. Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about how the Yankees, we're about halfway through the season, some key players with what their actual WAR totals are, and then what they were projected to be at to this point in the season. I used Fangraphs, and notably I used the Zips projections for the projected WARs. Not a ton of surprises, believe it or not, for how good the team has been. For example, Judge, having MVP type season, has produced 4 WAR so far. He was projected to be at 3.5. DJ is almost spot on, 2.3 actual, 2.0 was projected. Trevino is one of the biggest differences. He was projected to be at 0.7, and he's been 2.2. He's been one of their most productive position players. Obviously, a lot of that is due to his value as a catcher. But a guy like Gleyber, who I think has had a really good season, had a great day on Saturday, has produced 1.6 WAR. He was projected to be at 1.4. So as solid as the years Gleyber has had, like, he's kind of in line with his projections.
But the projection is a little high, wouldn't you say? The projection was kind of taking into consideration, I think, what the position change would do for a bounce back. It was almost assuming some things in there that have gone correctly, and then he's outdoing even what people thought he could be on a good year. So that's a little misleading, and I gotta say, I'm surprised when I'm looking at the projected. Like, there's nobody even at a flat WAR. Everybody's the lowest guy on here was Chapman at a 0.2 projected WAR, whereas everybody else was higher. So pretty optimistic WAR projections also.
Well, I mean, all of these players that I listed here were major contributors or starters. You're not going to project a major contributor as just a league average player.
No, but they had Joey Gallo at a 1.4. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's been the biggest underperformer. Gallo's been the biggest underperformer, obviously. Gallo's at minus 0.2. He's really the only one on this list other than Loizaga, who's also minus 0.2, who is negative WAR. Obviously, Loizaga and Chapman are Chapman's also negative WAR. Those two disappointments in the bullpen, partially due to injuries, have been offset by Clay Holmes and Michael King being standouts. So they've gotten any losses from Chapman and Loizaga actually more than made up for with Holmes and King.
Yeah, definitely. There's no one projected Holmes, obviously, to be as much. They had him at a 0.4, and he's coming in at a 1.3. King is even ahead of him, at a 1.4. So you could look at both of those guys, and in isolated situations and actually make the argument that King has been more impressive due to what he was expected to be over Holmes. You could make that argument, I think.
You could, and King has slightly more WAR because he, especially in the first month of the season, was pitching more innings, a lot more innings in longer outings. On the position player side, the biggest underperformers are IKF, Donaldson, and obviously Gallo. Donaldson's another one who hasn't been terrible, 0.9 WAR, but he was projected to be at 1.5 halfway through the season.
Yeah, and I'd say lately he's been damn worth it defensively. The guys when he's out there playing third, and even when LeMahieu's out there, their third base has definitely been improved even from what Gio was doing at third. Like, they've improved defensively. They've improved even at the shortstop. This was another situation where I'm looking at IKF making fantastic plays. That play he made at short in the hole towards third was a top play. The transition from diving to get on his feet to make the throw was insanely fast. He's got all the skills he needs. But then he fields a ball up the middle and throws it into the ground. Normally Rizzo scoops it. Doesn't get it, but it's little things like that. That's where the disconnect is. He's missing the plays that he should make, those easier plays, but then he's got the skill level and he's got the instincts to make these fantastic plays out there. So I still think the best to come the best is still to come with him at shortstop. We have to remember also, and I know I sound like an IKF defender here, and I kind of am because I like the way that he plays and I like the way that he fits onto this team, but he hasn't played a ton at shortstop at the pro level. The Gold Glove came at third. He was a catcher for an entire year with Texas. He's got that under his belt. He doesn't have a ton of shortstop time. So I think as we're seeing more reps, that talent is going to shine, and I think he's going to clean up more of the things. So I think it's still we're still waiting to see the best from him.
What do you think their best defensive alignment is in the infield and the outfield, taking into account the DH spot? I was thinking about this the other day.
That's a tough one because Glaber has played a much better second base. He's making that case a little bit more difficult for LeMahieu. But I still think it's LeMahieu at second, Donaldson at third, IKF at short, Rizzo at first.
And then you would DH Glaber in, like, if we're starting a playoff series tomorrow, right? You got to have Glaber in the lineup, so you DH Glaber.
I think for starting it, because Glaber's been the starting second baseman all year, for that purpose, I would probably put him out there, and possibly, I would probably DH either. I would probably DH Donaldson and start LeMahieu at third potentially. I could see that, but I would keep Glaber at second base. I think he's earned that right in that position. And I think that does matter with him a bit more than some other players.
The added benefit you have of having DJ start at third and not DH is that he can then slide over to another defensive position without losing the DH, if you had to do that late in a game.
Yes,
so
that's true.
I think I agree with you there.
And I think we're still going to wait to see what happens in the outfield because here's the problem: unless Stanton's playing in right field, then he's in the DH spot. So someone's going to have to sit. Well, especially if they upgrade the outfield. If they upgrade the outfield at the deadline, they're going to be in that position where either Glaber or LeMahieu, you're looking at or Donaldson is going to have to sit, because if they're not going to play Stanton in right field every single day. So I don't see them sitting Stanton and not putting him in the lineup. He's going to be out there. So one of those guys, something's got to give. If they upgrade it and they go and they, let's say they get a center fielder or a left fielder or whatever they do, another outfielder that has a bat and will project as a more everyday guy, then they're going to be in that situation where someone's going to have to sit.
To wrap up the WAR discussion, in the rotation, everybody has outperformed except Garrett Cole. He's the only one who has underperformed. And obviously Nestor Cortes has probably been the biggest outperformer.
And Cole walked in, it projected WAR of a 2.5. When we say he's underperforming, he's still performing at a high level with a 1.7 WAR. But yes, he's under his projection, and the reason why this season is going as well as it is because those guys are well outperforming their projections as a valuable player. Real quick, I think Trevino.
Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Just real quick, the Trevino numbers. I don't know how much, and maybe you can shed some light on this if you guys know a little bit more. But the 2.2 actual WAR for him is that it feels like it like the value is even higher than that. It doesn't tell the full story because I don't know how much it considers the. It can't really consider how he calls a game. I don't know how much of I know some of the framing will go into defensive metrics and you have WAR there, but there's so many intangibles with him, the way he controls the staff, the way that he's got the framing down and the confidence that he has, that I think it's even higher than it is. Like that's a great number, but it doesn't even feel as high of a value as he's actually been a contributor with this team.
Yeah, I mean, that's why WAR or any number is not the end-all be-all, because there's context to everything and how a player fits on the roster and interacts with, in his case, handles the pitchers and the value he might add before a game, going through plans and all that kind of stuff. Like, of course, that can't be factored into a number like WAR.
No, but when even the defensive stuff, you're putting it in there, and it's
Defense,
capturing
yeah.
part of this. It's capturing it, no doubt about it. But just overall, this guy has brought so much. Like it's a great number to what he has right now. A great number, and it's not even telling the full story of what he is. That's how great he's been this year. Yeah, Logan.
So I have written down from the beginning of the season that Kyle Higashioka and Ben Rootved, because they were going to split time at catcher, had a projected F-WAR for the entire season of 2.8. So Trevino at 2.2, that's getting both of their productions that they were projecting for the whole season in half.
Yeah, there's a legitimate argument that he has been like the second most valuable position player in the first half of the year, Trevino.
Yeah, I mean,
just
to get a little nutty, you could make an argument that's not completely crazy about value. And I'm not talking about MVP race. I'm talking about like pure value to a team fully, that he could be the most valuable. And I know Aaron Judge obviously is having the year that he is, but you could, because he's affecting both sides in a very clear and massively positive way. You could make the argument. Because of the intangibles. Because of the intangibles. Well, because of all the things you just mentioned. The stats don't capture everything. The fact that this guy has come in off the street from the day before the season started and done the things that he's done and controlled the catching situation and the results from the pitching side, a lot of that could be contributed to what he has brought as far as stability behind the plate and to the position. It's immeasurable, the things that he's brought. There are a lot of intangible eye test things that will not go into a stat discussion about MVP. Judge would win that hands down, no doubt. But when you talk about the whole picture, you could make an argument he's up there.
All right, note to Ilya, who's going to be listening to this, I would like a graphic with Scott's face that says, hot take, Jose Trevino more valuable than Aaron Judge.
Don't even put stats on. Don't even put stats on the page, and just say eye test.
Eye test. Jose Trevino better than Aaron Judge, and just like pick a really douchey looking facial expression from Scott for the image.
Won't take much. Won't take much.
All right, let's briefly talk about the Pittsburgh series. And we're going to do it by looking on WynnBET, which is now live in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Louisiana, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Tennessee, and Virginia. They bring the excitement of the Wynn Las Vegas to online sports betting and casino play. From boosted same-game parlays to live in-game odds on every major sport, WynnBET has what you need. Sign up today and receive special offer. Bet $50 and win $200 with code XBlueWire. Weird two-game set in Pittsburgh. Cool stadium. Never been. Would like to go. It's really my opinion on the Pittsburgh Pirates is just cool stadium. But Taillon's making his return.
Lots
home.
of good pitching that goes to other teams.
That's true. Yes, a lot of good pitching. Bad decisions to trade for Chris Archer. That's another one. That's another staple.
Horrific decision. Yeah, that trade. You looking back at that trade, it's obnoxiously bad.
Got to be top 10 worst trades in MLB history, right?
It's. I think injuries have skewed it a bit, but it's not good. It's bad.
Taillon is gonna be returning home, and the Yankees are facing Jose Quintana, which he's been kicking around the league. The Yankees do have some good numbers off of Quintana. Donaldson is 6 for 14 with a double and a homer. Judge is 1 for 3, only 3 at bats. Rizzo 3 for 12, and Gallo 2 for 7. Wow, he's got 2, and only one of them is a home run from Joey Gallo. Just throwing curveballs here, Logan, with these projections. Hicks, not so great, is 2 for 13.
So I mean, Joey Gallo's a lock for a home run in this game, right? Isn't this what we're looking at? If he doesn't perform against Jose Quintana in this, which he's clearly got the best numbers of any pitcher he's ever faced, then I don't know what's happening. Like, you just leave him in Pittsburgh. Just leave him in Pittsburgh. An underrated city from all I hear. Like you mentioned, beautiful stadium, underrated city potentially. Just leave him there. He could do well. He could do well out there. I like this game. Jose Quintana against the powerful right-handed lineup of the New York Yankees. I have a feeling is going to be a problem. So I like this game, and I like the Yankees putting up a stack against them.
Do you like Taillon going back to Pittsburgh? You buying into that narrative?
Yeah, why not? I think anything that can add a little bit of extra motivation is a good thing for a player, like especially one that's holding the ball and theoretically controlling the game. So, I don't think that Pittsburgh is at fault by any means in him. Like, I don't think he's got. Maybe I'm wrong about this. I haven't really heard what he's thinking, but I imagine he doesn't have any ill will towards Pittsburgh. Yeah, there were a lot of things that happened to him, including getting diagnosed and fighting off cancer. Like, unbelievable situation with this guy. So he's definitely he overcame a lot of things. So maybe this is more of an emotional homecoming for him, getting back there. So this is I do think there's probably a little extra motivation though for him, and I think that's a good thing.
And last but not least, we do have some roster and injury news. So the Killer B era is, I guess, officially over. Banuelos was traded to the Pirates for cash considerations. Marinaccio is placed on the IL with dead arm, and he'll be shut down for a few days before resuming catch. Loaizaga threw a 21-pitch live batting practice session. And Herman also made a rehab start. So Marinaccio, that him being shut down, that's going to be a little bit of a loss. He's been really solid in the bullpen.
He's been very good. I think that's a guys like him. That this is where I think it's going to get interesting at the end of the year. If you have a decision to be made with a roster that needs arms in the bullpen, and you're making a potential decision with a guy like Ron Marinaccio, who's been fantastic this year and has earned the trust of Aaron Boone, and then a guy like Aroldis Chapman. If he's not going well, if he's not throwing the ball over the plate, that's a decision, is it not? It's not an assumption that you choose one guy over the other right there. It shouldn't be, at least not with this caliber of team, not with the expectations of this team.
That would be a hell of a decision if they do that. I mean,
it's just a name, though. Look at the numbers, and it's actually not that close.
Well, duh. But that's not how it works. Like, you don't just look at the numbers. You look at the names, and you look at the salaries, and you look at everything.
You don't look at salaries at that point. You don't look at names at that point. You look to see who the hell is going to affect your team in a positive way and contribute to what you're doing in the playoffs, because you have the ability to win a championship. None of the other things should be considered. None of them.
All right, that's going to wrap it up. To be honest, I hope that the tech issues have not been too unbearable to listen to. I hope they haven't. I think the first 45 minutes or so of the show was probably clean. Maybe the last couple minutes are tough. Either way, I hope everyone has been enjoying their 4th of July. We're going to be recording again this week. We're going to be doing our mid-season general manager episode where we each come up with some plans approaching the trade deadline, which is about a month away. looking forward to that. And we'll talk to you again also after the Pittsburgh series. Enjoy the holiday, everybody.